Before starting the analysis, it is recommended to review the code setup. Code setup is a set of parameters relevant to the calculation. They are linked to the selected Eurocode standard and to numerical settings for the finite element method. They are divided into several categories. Stop at limit strain. The first and one of the most important settings is the option to suspend further iterative load application to the connection components at the moment when the first of them fails. It ensures load application only until the moment of the first failure. Why is it useful to include this option? With this option, you will immediately know which is the weakest link in the connection, which is useful when undertaking activities to strengthen the components. Geometrical nonlinearity. Idea statica during the analysis simulates the real behavior of connections. This means that it considers material nonlinearity and geometric nonlinearity. For the majority of connections, this is sufficient. However, this cannot be said for pipe profiles as well as for thin wall profiles. For the mentioned cases, there is a possibility to consider geometric nonlinearity into the analysis, and it is activated right here. Detailing. Activating this option checks the minimum distances on the connection, which must be in accordance with the design code. This refers to the distance between the bolts and the distance from the bolts to the edge of the connecting end plate. Concrete breakout resistance. This option checks the failure of the concrete cone when checking the tension-loaded anchors, which are anchored in concrete. Local deformation check. It is an additional check of local deformations of pipe profiles for the serviceability limit state. Plate and weld clash check. Check of the plate and weld geometrical interference. Pre-tension force factor K. It is a factor used to determine the pre-tensioning force for the pre-tensioned bolts and represents a percentage of their total resistance. Friction coefficient in slip resistance. It is a friction surface coefficient for the pre-stressed bolts. Partial safety factors. Partial safety factors reduce the resistance in the calculation process. They are in accordance with the selected design code but can be modified here. The following are the parameters related to the concrete check during the anchoring. Anchor length for stiffness calculation. The value used to determine the stiffness of the anchor in the connection. Joint coefficient. The coefficient needed to calculate the compressive strength of the concrete, and it depends on the characteristics of the filling between the washer and the concrete. Effective area influence of mesh size. A factor used for determining the effective surface area of concrete under pressure in contact with the washer. Friction coefficient concrete. Friction factor between the concrete surface and the washer. Alpha cc. A factor that considers the reduction of the compressive strength of concrete due to the influence of the weather effects. Cracked concrete. Is the concrete considered cracked or not? It is important for the anchor check. In the next video we proceed with the check settings.